remove the key insights from the screen and begin our session. Thank you everyone for coming this afternoon to the UMetCal webinar on AI. It is wonderful to see so many of you, and together we hope to hear from you about your experiences and your thoughts with AI. My name is Tsvet Ross-Lazarov. I'm an instructional designer for the UMetCal and the COMET program. And together with my colleague James Russell from the COMET program, we'll share with you some examples of how AI is already being used in the fields of meteorology and training. And so we wanted to start with this quote from Imo Udom from the Mozilla Foundation, in which he said that AI is no longer our future, it is our present. And I hope that in today's sessions, you're going to see some very concrete example of how AI is already being used in various professions around the world. So right from the start, we wanted to clarify a couple of things. Broadly speaking, there are two types of AI in existence today. The first one is a narrow AI. This is AI that has been trained to perform a single task, like writing text or generating images. This is known as the narrow AI. And so tools like ChatGPT, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, etc., that they are an example of narrow AI. Now, the other type of AI is called general AI. And that is an AI that can perform any intellectual task that the human being can do. It can reason, it can plan, it can perceive its environment. Now, scientists think that we are about 10 years away, at the most optimistic scenario, from seeing general AI in the world. And other scientists say that we will never see general AI that can reason and plan and perceive its environment. So while there is some disagreement about whether general AI is possible, both groups agree that work towards general AI has already begun. Today, my colleague and I are going to focus primarily on narrow AI, the AI that has been trained to perform a single task. And with this, I will turn it over to James, who will share with you some information about AI use in meteorology.
Thanks, Pat. Just let me share my screen here. Okay, so it was a fairly provocative title that we were all going to lose our jobs. So I'm going to kind of start us off with something I think is hopefully a little bit more positive, and go on from there. So I'm going to talk today about places where AI is already or very close to being involved in meteorology and forecasting. So I'll just go through a few examples here, and then give sort of my thoughts on some general themes of where AI is today. So with that, I'll sort of dive in. So this is a first example. This is a probabilistic tropical cyclogenesis prediction tool, and it uses AI to identify areas and give a probability of tropical cyclone formation. This was produced by NESDIS. This is an operational tool for the globe, basically. And so you can see here that the colors represent a probability. And at this time in September last year, or a few years ago, actually, we had tropical cyclogenesis probability off the coast of Africa in Cape Verde and north of the Caribbean in the Atlantic. And this was produced by an AI model and trained on various forecast models to predict tropical cyclogenesis. And if you want any more information on these applications, there's a link to various presentations annual conference this year. Yeah, so I'll move on here. Here's another application of AI. This one quite different. This is using satellite data or geostationary satellite data to identify and downscale wildfires in the US. So on the left here, you can see this is the GO-17. So this is the west of the US, the western satellite in the US. And this is California. And what you can see is this warm surface temperatures that are associated with a fire. And it's this broad area. What they did with the with AI was they use it to downscale that. So the AI is trained on past fires and a sort of higher resolution data set to take GO-17 data and translate that into hotspots of the fire. So you can see there's one to the north here and one and sort of a broader line to the south here. And then they put that on such that it can be used by firefighters, it can be used by emergency managers to try and track this fire and get a better estimate of where to position crews. So this is an example here where they're really using it and transferring it to the people on the ground that need this data. And this is it's making this data more human usable. Our next application here is for aviation. This is a tool that takes the GFS forecast. It trains it on PIREPS data, which is a commercial aviation data set that can estimate that has data on a number of things, including. And so what this tool does is it translates GFS variables into something much more human usable and estimates clearer turbulence. So down here you can see the scale. There's no turbulence, light turbulence, moderate turbulence. So you can see that the model here is estimating that you've got moderate turbulence over the Pacific here and over Central America. So any flights moving from Western South America up to Central America or Western North America are going to be experiencing that, and flight planners can use that to better plan their flights and try and avoid the sort of clear air turbulence. So again, another tool where AI is being used to sort of help humans interpret model data or satellite data and use that in the real world to make a difference. Here's one where AI is actually being used to produce an actual forecast. So this is a tool that was developed to use or to predict heat waves. And so this was a reanalysis data set up here. You can see there's a heat wave over the Pacific Northwest. This is sort of Vancouver and Seattle area. And so this was the observed truth, or as close to it as we had. And these are two AI models used to predict this heat wave at 5 days and 23 days out. And so you can see that, you know, they're getting this, they're getting the heat wave. They're noticing these standard temperature anomalies that are out over the Pacific. They're perhaps not getting the right location, but they're forecasting this. And so these aren't really the ones I want to focus on here. What I want to focus on here is this graph on the right. This is the correlation coefficient, so a bit of a measure of forecast accuracy. And this black line here is the climatology prediction for heat waves. These red and purple lines are the ECMWF's deterministic model, or the ensemble forecast. You can see that in the keys below. And then the yellow and green and blue lines here, those are the various AI models that they trained to forecast heat waves. So what you can see is that, the bread and butter of deterministic and ensemble dynamical models, the up to 10-day range, they're always doing better. As you might expect, they have a much better knowledge of what's going on in the atmosphere. But once you get past, your 10-day predictability barrier or so, 2-week predictability barrier here, some of these AI models are actually doing considerably better. And so this here is a good example of where AI can kind of fill the gaps that our dynamical models perhaps don't do so well at. And so that's in here in the sort of sub-seasonal to seasonal scale. This one is a sort of favorite application that I've found. It's a interaction between sort of meteorology and ecology to really help people make a difference in an ecology setting. And what it is it's an operational AI model that's used in South Texas to predict periods where you have extremely cold water for that area, and that stuns sea turtles. And what stunning of sea turtles is when they get the water gets too cold and they get a bit hypothermic. They get slow. They aren't able to avoid boats. They aren't able to avoid predators as much, and so you get a high mortality rate in the sea turtles. And so down here, this is just an example of their forecast. So the black line here is the water temperature. The blue line here is the air temperature, and then the black and blue dashed lines here are the air temperature and water temperature projections. Air temperature is taken from dynamical models, and the water temperature is produced by the AI model. And so they're using this in South Texas to interact with ecologists and shipping authorities to put a pause on boating in certain sensitive areas where these sea turtles are prone to getting stunned, and this is where there's still boating going on. They'll get hit by boats and killed, and they lose a lot of sea turtles in that instance. And so here you can kind of see an example where we're at the 4, 5, 6 day range here, and we're looking where the water temperatures are starting to approach the threshold for the sea turtles to be impacted. All right, just a list of a few other AI applications that are either near or in operations. So we have sort of deep convection for or nowcasts for aviation in Taiwan. Probabilistic power outage predictions. This is used in California, where they're helping power companies pre-position crews to better get that power back online. Another tropical cyclone one is for rapid intensification of tropical cyclone forecasts. Typically, our dynamical models really struggle with rapid intensification. And so AI models can sort of step in and perhaps do a little bit better job. Automated detection of road conditions from webcams. This is the New York Department of Transport. They're basically training an AI model on millions of images from webcams to best identify the road conditions such that they can better put out warnings. And then a probability of hail nowcasts. This is currently being used in Oklahoma and Texas to help car manufacturers avoid vehicle damage, so they can kind of cover their vehicles before they get hit by those, big hailstones that you get out there. And so I'm just gonna give a few themes here, where I think AI is going in the meteorology world. So AI is really more of an additional tool than it is, I think, replacing anything like a dynamical model that we have. So it's being used to translate observations or models into more human usable information, such that the forecaster doesn't have to do that and they can focus on their communicating with their partners. Downscales models or observations to scales more useful to a human. That's something like the satellite imagery with the wildfires that we saw. And then it's used to sort of supplement dynamic do so well traditionally. So seasonal scales, we saw with the heat waves, dynamical models typically fail, but the AI model can actually do a little bit better. Nowcasts, typically where dynamical models aren't available yet because they're slower and much more expensive to run. So you can use AI models to sort of fill that gap. And then also, I didn't touch on this one, but with ensembles, AI models are very cheap to run. So you can run many, many more of those than you can with a dynamical model. And so it can really be helpful to use AI for probabilistic information. So the sort of expected training needs here out of this are sort of, how do we use these tools alongside models and observations? How do we use these tools for communication with our partners and impact-based decision support services? And when to use these tools over traditional methods or models. So, help forecasters use these alongside our models. And so with that, I'll leave it there. I'll give it back to Tsvet. I'll say that if you want to ask me any questions, I'm not an expert on any of these. We are kind of compiling a list of things that may need training needs, but I'll try and answer any questions as best as I can.
All right, thank you, James. So please direct any questions you may have to James in the chat, or you can hold them towards the end of the session. We'll have a period of questions and answers. And now we'll shift back. All right. So at this point, we're going to use our polling question tool. So based on what you have seen, read, or heard in the news over the past 2 or 3 months, which of the following professions do you think can be affected by AI? You can select all that apply here. So go ahead and turn on Point Solutions and then send in your answers. Answers are starting to come in. So we'll give you a few more seconds to send in your answers, and then we'll take a look and see what you think. I see some of you are typing in the chat. We have several of you suggesting that all of these professions can be affected by it. And someone said all but medical research. All right, we'll wait another 5 seconds or so Let's take a look. Aha, all right. We have large agreement here across the board. And I wanted to let all of you know you are all correct. All of these professions can be affected by AI, from people who practice law, who deal with specific cases and then research all of the laws and regulations that exist and then try to come up with a viable strategy for their clients, all the way to medical research. AI has been used in the field of medical research to spot particular medical conditions earlier than a human being can diagnose them, and also to determine the shape and folding of proteins, which one medical researcher said that is going to change medical research. Those were his actual words, because AI can perform it so much quicker than human beings can anticipate the surface and shape of various proteins. And some of you mentioned that perhaps trainers would not be affected by it. And as a trainer myself, I can say that AI has already affected me in very direct ways. And while we have a lot of professions here that are going to be affected by it, today we're going to focus primarily on trainers and meteorologists. So how can AI assist us as trainers? Well, AI at this point can efficiently perform some intellectual tasks faster than a human being. And this is very important. For some time, we had thought that in order for AI to be useful to us, it needs to be smarter than a human being. Most of the AI tools right now are not necessarily smarter than us, but they are more efficient than us in performing certain tasks. So, for example, as a trainer, I have used ChatGPT to write explanatory text for scripts, for questions, to provide customized feedback. I have also used it to write poems, essays, and other types of answers to questions that I have been researching on. And as an example, on the screen, you see a question that I typed into ChatGPT a few days ago, in which I provided it some meteorological and ground conditions in the United States West, and I asked it to determine what ingredients could align over the next 12 hours in order to enhance wildfire activity. And ChatGPT generated this particular answer in under 10 seconds and correctly identified the high winds are likely to intensify wildfire activity, low relative humidity is going to contribute, high temperatures and dry fuels are also main factors that are going to be involved. And so, as you can imagine, as a trainer, I was delighted that I can have access to this tool, because I was able to quickly generate the answers and potential feedback based off the information here. Now, some of my colleagues at the COMET program have used ChatGPT to write code and troubleshoot programming code and also fix their programming code. And as we mentioned earlier, DALL-E and Stable Diffusion and Midjourney and other AI tools are trained to generate images. In fact, in the most recent update to Midjourney, it has become so good at generating images that people are finding them to be too realistic. They no longer seem to work as standard photographs. They have exceeded what we consider to be an appropriate image for a photograph. And then AI has also been used to analyze learning analytics. So learners who are working within a learning management system, and then AI has been able to successfully identify the learners who are at risk of failing a course, and then has provided them with information to assist them to increase their knowledge and skill set with the information in the course. And also AI has been able to identify learners who are at risk at leaving the educational institution, and has alerted advisors and teachers to that possibility, and then additional human support has been provided to them in order for them to stay at the educational institution that they were at. And then finally, AI has currently and has been used to provide customized support for learners in a number of different courses. Those of you who are users of Duolingo and you're learning various languages, you will notice that Duolingo just recently introduced ChatGPT support in their top paid tier where it will provide you with customized lessons and will provide you with role play conversations where you will have a chance to have a conversation with a AI speaker of the language that you're trying to learn. Now, there are some hazards with AI, and that primarily comes from how current models operate. Current models are known as large language prediction models. Instead of displaying cognition and understanding, they are simply predicting what is the most likely word that needs to appear after the word that is currently on the screen. And so as a result of that, they are prone to factual errors and something that AI researchers call AI hallucinations. And for an example of an AI hallucination, take a look at the image on the screen. A person asked AI, how can we successfully prove that dinosaurs built a civilization in the Cretaceous period? And as you can see from both paragraphs, especially in the second paragraph, the AI tool decided that we have fossilized remains of dwellings and tools and other artifacts. They build complex structures like nests and burrows and shelters. They also left behind their indicators of hunting and gathering activities, and also they developed primitive forms of art, and they left engravings on stones and so on. So as you can see, because AI is designed, at present is designed to forecast which is the most likely word to appear after the word that it's currently displaying on the screen, it can create completely erroneous information for us. So we need to be very careful with the use of AI in this particular space. Now, there are other hazards that come with AI. For example, ChatGPT has been trained on over 300 billion words that have been scraped from the internet. So that includes articles of various types from various media sources, but it also includes social media posts and blog posts by a number of different people. And so all of that information has now been ingested into this AI model and is being used for the creation of the responses that we see and so many people use. And there is no way for us to protect our information currently from companies that are scraping it off of the internet. The other thing that is happening is that as AI is generating its answers to us, it does not provide us with attribution of where those ideas came from. And because of that, it has opened up large possibilities for the rise of misinformation and disinformation because we cannot trace the link of ideas and scientific information that it is presenting to us. Now, I'm happy to report that Bing's search tool has begun to include simple footnotes in order to let us know where some of the information came from. That is a good step in the right direction. Now, another hazard that is associated with the use of AI is that professionals and learners may become dependent on it, and they will fail to develop their own capacity and skill sets. And so we are seeing this at this point in the United States, where thousands of high school and university students have figured out that ChatGPT can provide them with answers to tests. It can also write essays for them, and they will get an acceptable grade, which in turn has led to many academic and professional institutions to designate the use of AI in university and high school assignments as cheating. And so, because of that, different institutions are implementing procedures to try and catch when learners are using AI in this way. Now, another set of hazards come from the bias that AI is currently displaying. So if you think about the way that large language models are trained, researchers are grabbing information from the web, including a number of different social media posts and blog posts where human beings have expressed their biases, whether they're gender or racial biases, and AI has learned based on that information. And so occasionally you will see reports in which AI displays gender or racial bias. And now one of the things to remember again is that The current large language models do not have cognition and understanding. They're simply predicting what is the most likely word that will appear after the word that is currently on the screen. And so they're simply reflecting back to us the kinds of information that we have posted online. Now, another aspect that is coming up with AI is access. Naturally, those of us who have access to the internet and the tools that are available, we can get these tools and use them for our professional work. There are other people around the world who may not have regular internet access or the ability to have access to that. And so this raises questions about equity and social justice. So what can trainers do? Well, as you have noted, AI can be used to generate explanatory text or code. And I wanted to give you a very quick demonstration of how that may look. So this is the interface of ChatGPT for those of you who might not have seen it yet. And down here at the bottom, we can type pretty much any question that we would like. So I'm interested in learning about what is the difference between incident decision support services and impact-based forecasting services in the field of meteorology. And so here it is. ChatGPT is going to think about the question that I have asked, and I'm really hopeful that in a couple of seconds, it will start responding. And so let's see what it comes up with. So far, so good. So the goal of IDSS is to minimize the potential damage and loss of life by providing real-time weather updates and forecasts, as well as advice on how to respond to the situation. And then on the other hand, IBF services are designed to provide detailed information on the potential impacts of a weather event, rather than just expected weather conditions. IBF takes into account the vulnerability of the affected area, the severity of the weather event, and the potential risks to life, property, and infrastructure. This information is then used to develop tailored warnings and advisories that highlight the potential impacts of the weather event, and then also provide guidance on how to prepare for and respond to the situation. And then, in summary, it lets us know what the main differences are. And here it is. In under 15 seconds, we have an answer to the question, what is the difference between IDSS and IBF? So I hope you can see that as trainers, we have access now to a tool that can very quickly write explanatory text for us. Now, other institutions have used AI as a performance support tool. So for example, as learners are working on a course, they can ask questions and then they will receive answers similar to what you just saw on the screen, ranging on scientific questions to application questions and so on. So that even when the learners return into their normal daily operations, they can still have access to this tool, and then they can type questions as they're working and then, of course, get answers. Now, one of the problems that we need to avoid with AI was the AI hallucinations that I mentioned earlier. So it is always a good idea for us to fact check all of the drafts of text that AI is generating, and then, of course, provide edits to the draft so that we can focus it only on the information that we would like our learners to have from the learning experience. Now, having said that, because AI can efficiently generate explanatory text, it reduces the amount of time that we need to spend writing the text. And that saving of time we can put towards creating games and enhanced drills and simulations that provide motivation, that challenge our learners, increase their interest, and also engender in them the desire to learn. And so the savings that we can realize in terms of time and development, we can put towards creating more engaging learning experiences for our learners. Because as you have seen right now, the two main capabilities of AI that most people are using are for generating images and generating explanatory text. And so if we're thinking about our e-learning as primarily generating explanatory text and putting images together with it, AI can already do a lot of that work. And so as trainers, in order for us to continue to remain relevant in this new world, we need to create these more engaging designs and use AI as a support structure. Otherwise, we may risk being replaced. All right, so take a look at this question now and decide whether there are laws across the world that are used to regulate the use of AI. Right, to see answers are coming in. See that we have emergent consensus in the chat about B as a potential answer. So we'll wait for a few more minutes to see what are the answers through point solution. All right, let's take a look and see what you think. Aha. And you are correct. At present, there are no laws that regulate the use of AI. What we have at the moment is a situation in which anyone can use and create various types of large language models. We can use them to write any kind of text, and we can also use them to any type of activity. So, for example, some of you might have noticed last week Microsoft announced that ChatGPT is going to be built into Microsoft Office and Microsoft Teams in order to help us write Word documents, prepare presentations, and analyze Excel data. And companies like Duolingo have made it available already in their enhanced drills and games that they're providing for learning languages. And there are more and more companies that are getting into this field right now. Even there is a company that provides human-like relationships through AI in which people can have a conversation with another virtual person. And so the incentive right now is for companies to make more capable AI. There are very few incentives for companies to make socially beneficial AI. And so as we are watching the emergence of this new technology, we need to ask our governments and our companies to work together on building AI safety techniques and enable human beings to coexist with this new technology. And there is a new field called machine ethics, which has emerged as a possibility for us to assist AI in having similar ethics as human beings. We also need to request from our governments and companies to put privacy protections and also to include the source of where that information came from so that we can trust the decisions that are made by AI. And because of this lack of regulation, right now we are in an arms race between companies in creating more capable AI. They're not necessarily competing with each other to create more socially beneficial AI. They're competing with each other to create more capable AI. And so it's a very large need for us to request companies and governments to work together in creating socially beneficial AIs. And then finally, countries are also currently engaged in an arms race in which they are using AI in combat. The image that you see on the screen is from the United States Air Force. This plane has been flown by AI in test missions over 20 times. This means that AI has been able to take off engage in simulated combat, and land this plane successfully over 20 times in training missions. So there are a number of other efforts that are trying to bring AI into the field of combat. And we certainly hope the governments will be a lot wiser than that. So right now, the EU is leading the way with a number of different initiatives on regulating AI. They have identified high risk to low risk AI implementations. And here we'll focus primarily on the high risk ones. They have defined high risk AI as AI that affects the employment, access to social services, or places the lives or health of citizens at risk. So if such AI is to be brought to market, the companies need to meet the following obligations. They first need to disclose what is the quality of the data set that they used to train the AI tool. They also need to let us know how their AI is making the decisions that it's being asked to make so that we have a transparency, so that we can see what AI processes are. EU is also planning to require human oversight at all times, also technological robustness so that the tool will be available to the largest number of users. And in addition, they're also looking for fairness and societal well-being to be built into the AI tools that are going to come to market and being used in the EU. And they also require accountability for the choices and decisions that AI will be making, and also increased cybersecurity protections. So with this in mind, we wanted to gather and hear from you. What are your thoughts about the AI? You will have two options to share your thoughts with us. You can just unmute yourself and share what you think about AI and what you have seen so far. Or if you would like to, you can go to Padlet, which is an online tool where you can write at least one of your thoughts and then share it with the rest of us. And in a second, I will post that link in the chat, and you will be able to share whatever sources of information about AI or your particular ideas about AI. So here is the link in the chat. It will take you to this space. And in order to post your thoughts, you can just click on this very large plus sign, and then you can type in your AI thoughts, and you can include links to videos, graphics, and so on, and you can share your thoughts with us. Now, at the same time, if you prefer to speak up during the meeting, please go ahead and do so. So while we wait for those of you who are planning to share your thoughts through Padlet, I also wanted to share with you a number of different resources that you can use in order to do your own in-depth study of AI. If you're interested in the EU framework for trustworthy AI, you can follow this particular link. If you're interested in learning more about how Microsoft plans to implement AI into Microsoft Office, here is that link. If you want a primer on the most recent developments of AI, you can take a look at this article. Or if you wanted to see future trends, you can take a look at the futuretodayinstitute.com and their website for future technological trends. And then for examples of how AI is already being used in education, you can follow the links here. And then if you really wanted to understand how AI technology currently works, you can take a look at this very in-depth article about generative AI. All right, let's take a look at the Padlet board and see what thoughts you may have about it. Oh, very few people have posted their thoughts. And let's see, we have.
There is a comment in the chat.
Aha, all right. I assume that advisory services provided by operational meteorologists in the weather forecasting and warning service and civil protection are supported, not replaced by AI. I wonder what AI will bring in terms of opportunities for meteorologists. That is an excellent question. We have seen some experiments with AI in providing the text and messages of warnings. And right now, this is a very, very, very small study. It seems that the people who are looking at social media posts that have been generated as meteorological warnings find the social media post by AI, the text generated by AI, a lot more approachable and accessible in terms of understanding what it is that they need to do than the text that has been generated by meteorologists. And so, again, it's a very small study that has been done. So I would not go around and saying that, oh, AI is better than human beings in generating forecasts and warnings. However, at least from that very small study, it seems that people have shown preference for the AI-generated ones. And yes, those of you who identified the potential problems such as fake news and also insecure sources and misuse of personal data, indeed, you are correct. This is why we need to work with our governments and our representatives in various democratic institutions in order to pressure companies to place those safeguards within the AI.
There is a question in WebEx that you might be able to answer.
Okay. What is the difference between AI and machine learning? So, machine learning algorithms are used to train AI in the performance of its task. And so they are part of the way that AI is currently being trained in order to learn and ingest the billions of words and images that people are training it on.
Can you go back to the slide with the links?
All right, definitely. Let me jump back there. In fact, I can post the links in the chat. I very quickly can do that. So all of you can continue your study of AI. Yes, and one of you has posted the fact that AI lacks morals, and so that is a very big problem. You are very correct. Indeed, this has given rise to the field of machine ethics, where people are currently trying to figure out how to train AI into moral reasoning and ethical thinking. So I hope that they're making great progress. So as some of you have discovered on Padlet, it is possible for you to upvote or downvote the thoughts that people are sharing. So if there is something that you find interesting or appealing or represents the way that you're thinking about the situation, you can also upvote that particular comment. And AI is an additional tool. Absolutely, we cannot throw away the skill sets and the tools that we currently have, definitely. And I can share from my own personal experience. A long time ago, I started playing against AI in various games. And at first, I thought it was a joke because I was able to win every single time. But after 6 years of playing against many, 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 many human players in the world, I cannot beat AI at this point. It has increased its understanding of the skill set involved in the game to such a state that I'm no longer able to do that. And so it is definitely not going to replace the tools that we have out there, but it is becoming rapidly very good at some of the activities that we like to do. That's right. Some of you are not yet used to it. Indeed, it is a new technology that is out there. And so it takes a while for us to figure out exactly how we want to put it into practice.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Andre. I'm an operational map working in the field of renewables. Yeah? Doing a forecast for the solar panel and turbine, and the electricity produced. And each day I'm fighting against the EC models that are producing a power curve where all those maps of the wind are being converted into a curve, yeah?
Mhm.
So I can say 100% that I feel that this position is very threatened by this AI development. And what I'm thinking now is like, do I fight an AI or a machine learning? What is my real concern in that sense? Because I'm definitely fighting against the models and the maps, and for the time being, I'm winning still, but they're getting better and better, and the fight is becoming really tough.
Yeah, these are very valid thoughts. Yes. They will continue to improve, and so perhaps our role is going to change. As James alluded to earlier, perhaps instead of becoming focused on interpreting the products that are coming out from the models and then trying to generate forecasts from them, we can focus on providing that decision support and communication so that people will be able to take the right actions at the right time based on the weather conditions that we expect to see. I see that some of you have mentioned an advantage here, that it can be useful to solve a lot of the daily problems and some easy daily activities that usually take us a long time. And you are in fact correct. This is one of the main ways that we see the generative AI tools being used at the moment, is just to make some of our more labor-intensive tasks very quick and efficient. Are there any other questions, thoughts, ideas, concerns that you wanted to share? Right, well, then we probably don't need to stay online for the full hour. Those of you who have had your fill and you're ready to do something else and get on with the rest of the afternoon and evening, please feel free to hop off. And if you have any questions that you wanted to discuss with us, we'll be here for the remainder of our time together. Thank you all. We glad that you found this useful.